the new coronation stamp, the first stamps with King Charles on, I think. I'm just having a look at it from an artistic and symbolic point of view. We've got the king here in gold in profile on the top right, and then we have I assume this is Westminster Cathedral, Westminster Abbey here, the towers. One has a flagpole on it with no flag, which is odd. Oh, the style, yes, it's done in the style of a traditional woodcut. In fact, I would say this was made as a woodcut and printed, and then probably these days tweaked on a computer. Yeah, so I don't know why there's no flag on the tower. It's just a flagpole. There are 4 cannons on the left here, although from the wheels alone it looks like 3, but I'm going to go into the numbers a bit more later. The skyline at the back is strangely 1950s-esque, with nothing, no car, not a carbuncle in sight. Nothing over a very low block of really 1970s style flat skyscraper, something like the ITN building. Sorry, I'm scrolling back and forth because there's one on each side at the back. They've used something called aerial perspective, which I think looks a bit odd on a woodcut. So aerial perspective is where you make the subject matter get lighter as it goes further away, to create a sense of depth. So let's look at it as a whole, and you see that the king is there in the foreground and he's in the darkest colour of ink, and the archbishop there and someone else to the left, and then the buildings and the people celebrating the cathedral itself, the abbey I should say, is in a medium tone, and then at the very, and those people there, and the very skyline at the back and the sky is in a lighter still tone, and this creates depth, creates a coherent depth. That's not really how a woodcut is done. A woodcut is all one colour. The fact that it's in purple at all, normally it would be in black, but they've done it in purple, which I like. I like this regal purple that they've used, but I think the whole woodcut should have been done in this strongest colour that you have in the foreground here. And I think that the fireworks, the fact that they have to be lightened kind of shows that they're a little bit not right. They look like fish to me. I think they're very odd fireworks. There are 10 fireworks, and then you have these stars, 2 of which have rays and 2 of which do not. I find that very odd that they've done 4 stars instead of 3. There should be 3 representing the Trinity. Maybe they've done 2 pairs of 2 to represent church and state or something like that. I don't know, but it still looks wrong to me, 4 stars. The stars are 5-pointed. That's really just traditional. It's just a traditional way that we draw a star, at least in Britain. I mean, it's normally always 5-pointed. And there are 5 rays coming out of the one on the right. For some very strange reason, 6 rays coming out of the one top left. I'm thinking that perhaps the artist hasn't thought about the symbolism of the numbers. Just hasn't thought about it. I don't know. We've got people here celebrating, sitting again, looking like something out of 1977, with the bunting and the little flags on sticks, and sitting outside on tables in the street, something which you probably have to have numerous licenses and insurances for these days, and probably have to pay for, whereas of course we did that in 1977. We just did it. So I don't know how much of that actual street party situation there'll be. The people in these pictures are strangely without race. which is kind of nice, I suppose. Although this very smartly dressed man on the bottom right, the fact that he is wearing a suit jacket and a stick like that, I don't know, he just, to me, he looks Caribbean. I guess it's his head, his hair. And then we've got some people sitting on a hillside just above, and they're very indistinct. They almost look naked. I mean, it's very odd. They don't seem to have any clothes on at all, and they are watching. They're watching a big television version of this. I just realised. I hadn't tweaked. No, I don't think a television should be in the picture, and especially not a television that big. But then I suppose they are that big these days. But that looks wrong. That's too big to be in the picture, a television of it. But it's clever, but I don't like it. I think the only thing that should be in a woodcut is real things, not screens of things. So that's a bit of an oddity. Let's have a look at the priests here. We've got this priest looking very, very dark and sad. He's the only person. No, the king has facial features. He's got cheekbones there. He and this priest over here both have facial features. The one crowning him has none. I'm not sure who crowns him, whether it's the archbishop. Maybe that's the archbishop bottom left, and then this is someone else that crowns him as some other station attached to the church. The crown is beautifully rendered, of course, as it must be. And they've got King Charles's very notable ears, just highlighted by the light coming from above. I think actually they've done quite a good job of capturing his likeness there with that kind of double bubble of hair that he has as his hair comes down at the back there. And that they've graciously given the person crowning him highlights on their ears to make sure that it doesn't look like it's only Charles that has the ears. And to make it look as if they haven't tried to draw attention to them. So that's a gracious thing to do. And then we come over here, we've got that cannon again. The person firing the cannon looks almost naked. Very odd. He's got the right kind of hat on for the Fusilier. I suppose actually the Fusiliers do have quite tight uniforms. Yeah, the fishy fireworks, not a fan of them. I can see why they've done them like that, to give them motion, to make them look like they're moving. But I've never seen fireworks that look like that in any kind of rendering. And they're too big. They're too big, and they're too heavy looking. I get the idea. They've rendered them with light in the middle but that they should have been, the sky should have been entirely black or purple as it would be here, and the fireworks should have been the space of white left in the blackness. Then they could have done millions of different shapes, any shapes of fireworks they wanted, and they would have clearly been fireworks by the fact that they were light on dark, that they were the only light on dark items. That's what they should have done, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, the fireworks should have been light in dark. Should have had a whole dark top to it here. Maybe they did do a version like that. This won't have been the only version that came out. I guarantee you there will be numerous different ways that they did this. They also would have done versions without the aerial perspective, which I'm pretty sure has been done in CG later. I'm pretty sure that aerial perspective is done with a computer because it's too perfect, the different colours of ink. Then we got the coronation itself, the wording, the coronation, bottom left, which I'm surprised at the font that they've used. Yeah, I'm very surprised at that heavy font. They've used this font with varying thicknesses. You know, the centre of the O is off-centre from the outside of the O, which creates a varying thickness. It's off-centre at an angle. And you've got lots and lots of little angled triangular serifs on everything. I would have thought a more classic font would have been appropriate. They've because of the size of the writing is quite small, they've had to use a fairly thick font. I would have thought a sans serif font would have been better. I'm very surprised they've used that. Looks very commercial, that font. I don't know, a sort of TV Times font. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like the serifs. The king is photographed from the side here, if you want to put it that way, which I think is in itself very regal. You can't really see the king being crowned unless it's looked at from the side. For the distance that we're looking at the view from, we're not close up. We're not seeing the inside of the building in which he's being crowned. We're just seeing him and the chair and the priest. I think this is the correct view, the side like that, and we've got these two scepters rendered very nicely. Again, the detail on the king's forehead is very, very carefully done. It's very beautifully done. That just between his ear and his forehead, you've got the sort of jawbone looking like it's a slightly darker shading because of the thinner lines. Someone has spent a great deal of care on the face to make sure the face was exactly acceptable. That's probably his hair, actually. Now I look at it, it's not really the jawline, it's the hair, isn't it? And the hair on the person crowning him, they've got hair there as well, a little bit. No hair on the other priest. Nice details on the priest's robes there, actually. That I don't know what you call a thing that goes round the neck there. That sort of scarf type thing. And the towers of the abbey are nicely rendered as well. Again, not a fan of the pale colour of ink. I'm assuming the top right, this will be a metallic gold King Charles, although I don't know that for sure. I'm assuming it'll be metallic gold. His profile looks not quite right to me. If they made his nose a little less prominent than it is, or maybe that's how his nose is. Anyway, I do like the way they've captured his hair, because that really is how his hair goes at the back there, and it has for as long as I can recall. Of course, the house bottom right does look very traditionally English with the tiny windows, sash windows. They've rendered sash windows, traditional sash windows. You can see by the shadow that the top half casts on the bottom half. That is a traditional sash window. Although the house looks more like a house from a mining town or something. It looks like a very simple, especially with the size of the roof tiles. It looks like something from Yorkshire or Derbyshire or something. But then with sash windows, makes it a posh house. Bit odd, not quite right. The strange combination, because the cheaper houses, or I should say the more simple houses, not necessarily cheaper, but the more simple houses that this looks like it is, wouldn't tend to have sash windows, and certainly not that small. Sash windows tend to be much larger, and they tend to be on a different style of house than that. But they certainly tend to be larger, so I'm not quite working out what kind of house that is, to have a windowsill and a sash window, a stone windowsill and a sash window, tiny, on a house that has really very plain and has these large roof tiles. It's a very strange Frankenstein of a house. A very unusual house, not, I wouldn't say, typically seen anywhere. And the buildings that you can barely make out because of the aerial perspective I mentioned on this top right area, again, those kind of I don't know what you call those windows that stick out like that. You've got two sort of gables there with these big bay windows, the ones that sort of are they sticking out, or are they actually flat? I actually need my glasses to see. I'll put the glasses on for a second because I can't zoom in anymore. Oh no, they're flat, aren't they? Yeah, so they look like extremely wealthy people's houses in the home counties, but the skyline behind them is more like London. But then you've got these very strange row of houses between the two that looks like, to be honest, that whole skyline and representation of London really looks more like something out of St Giles in the 19th century, or City of London in the 18th century. I'm struggling to work out what the building is to the sort of left of that, with the funny tower on it. Pointy tower. That's just a weird building. I don't know what it is. It doesn't remind me of any particular building in London. It just looks weird. And then top left we've just got basically two skyscrapers and some foliage. I think that actually the skyscraper to the far left, top far left, I think that is the guards' barracks on Knightsbridge. I think that's what that's meant to be. And I think if we were in the park, if we were in Kensington Gardens or Hyde Park, I'm not quite sure what it is at that point. I think it's still Hyde Park, actually. If we were in Hyde Park looking that way, we might still see another skyscraper back down behind it, which might be part of the university. Is it Imperial University, I think? Or it might be just that it's part of one of the large hotels or apartment blocks that's there. I think there are some traditional hotels that are relatively old there, that are high-rise, semi-high-rise. So I suppose what they've tried to do is they've tried to have the centre of London rendered with the idea of skyscrapers on the left in the distance, and then on the right in the distance we've got something that might more likely be meant to be something like, I don't know, Sutton or Wimbledon or something like that. Perhaps even Hampstead, where they're sitting. And actually, yeah, I'm wondering if that's meant to be Hampstead, because the casement windows, those big windows that I mentioned with below the gables, that combined with that funny spiky church thing, I'm wondering if that's the big church near the Royal Free Hospital. Nice birds. Are they birds? Just above the windows on the main towers of the Abbey. Flying up to the sky at the very top there. Still fascinated by the flagpole. Why is there no flag on it? Shouldn't there be a flag flying on it? Or we're not allowed to fly flags at the coronation? I would have thought there'd be a Union Jack on there. So strange lack of flags. And the flags that are rendered, 3 of them there at the bottom right, where they're sitting at these rather plain-looking benches at a completely empty table that doesn't have a single bottle, or it's got no food and drink on it. It's completely, it is as starving as the people of this country currently are. And combine that with the fact that they're just in the most basic sort of shorts and t-shirts, apart from this Caribbean-looking gentleman with his stick, who's very smart. But as we know, that kind of Caribbean gentleman will be dressed up and looking smart, even if he hasn't got 2 dimes. He will make the effort. That whole scene feels so full of poverty to me. And the flags have nothing on them. It's like they didn't even have ink to print the flags. Why couldn't they have done a woodcutty Union Jack on there? I would have thought that would have been a nice challenge. It would have been nice to have that flag on there. And that bottom row of bunting makes a curious clash with the bottom of the Abbey Tower. Strange little clash there. There's a funny little square there that I can't quite tell whether it's a bit of bunting or whether it's the Abbey Tower. That suggests to me that this was actually put together on computer, that the background and the foreground were done separately and then they put them together on computer, and something weird happened there. They didn't quite resolve what they were going to do there. That's not right. That's just not right. That you've got clouds there near the base of the Abbey, and then what looks like a footstone of the Abbey with clouds next to it in the sky. And I think that little bit of sky looks wrong as well, because it's below the people sitting on the hillside above. That's just wrong. I didn't even notice there was sky there before. I don't think there should have been sky at all. It should have just been white. That's just wrong. It's just weird. So a series of different scenes, cut and collaged together, cut and collaged on computer. So that's the new first class stamp, the King Charles first class stamp. Just thought I'd give you my artistic eye, looking over it and telling you what I think. It's just my opinion. There it is in the whole. Looks good in the whole, in the round. When you look at the whole thing at once, I think it looks good. I think it looks great. Although the television screen now on the right sort of sticks out to me a bit too much. That whole right-hand area actually almost looks like it's separate from the left, because there is none of the darkest colour of ink in that right-hand area. So you end up with a sort of vertical stripe. And more so, it's a vertical stripe that sort of jigs over, because the king is jiggled over to the left slightly from the line of the tower. So you end up with a jiggled line. Looks like they've done that to get him as close to the centre as possible. They still haven't quite got him in the centre, not quite. They wanted him in a pure profile, not a semi-profile, where other possibilities might have been there if they'd had him in a half profile. But this pure profile, which looks more regal, I would agree. It just also draws attention to the fact that the priest on the left, this extra priest on the left, is in bold ink, whereas the people who are on the right are in a slightly dimmer shade of ink, which again it suggests that these people have a lower status than these people here, because they're dimmer, they're fading away. So not only have they got no food and no drink, but they're fading away on top of it. And the people watching TV on the hillside are naked. All they've got is a screen. Again, they've got no picnic, they've got nothing. Nothing, no streamers, nothing. Not a hat among them. Not a stitch of clothing. Very odd. Poor Fusilier as well, all on his own. Why hasn't he got a friend with him? You need two people to run a cannon. You can't have one person with a cannon. It takes two. So that's lack of research. And it just looks odd. He looks a bit lonely, and he's firing it out of the shot. He's firing it out of the stamp, off to the left. Not near, not towards the people. He's not declaring to the people that the king's being crowned. He's declaring it to someone way over there, someone we don't even know about. These people on the right, they don't know about the coronation. They can't hear the cannons because they're being fired that way. I get that they wouldn't want to fire the cannons towards the cathedral, but I think it might have looked a little bit better with everyone looking in at the picture, not just looking out and left as well. Looking left and looking left. That's wrong. That's partly why it looks so odd, because this is round the wrong way, these people watching the television. It's round the wrong way. I don't think I'm allowed to mirror on here. I can't think I can mirror. I don't have a mirror. Otherwise I would try to mirror it to show you. There it is, the coronation stamp.